Care. You usually see me here as a worship associate, and today I'm part of a team that includes congregants Judy Brewer at the piano, Joelle Bachner, who's going to sing for us, and of course Jermaine Kripe, who is our lifespan coordinator and who has written our story for all ages today. In case you're curious, if you can't see me, think white. Think older white woman with short curly white hair in a white shirt. And I answer to the pronouns she, her. Let's light our chalice, that symbol of our faith. Is there someone here who would like to volunteer to light the chalice, please? Julia. Oh.
Absolutely, it's a team effort. We're a community of communities. Do it together.
We light the chalice this morning with these words from Khalil Gibran. Trees are the poem's earth writes on the sky.
Right, we're going to start with hymn 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. And we're going to be singing verses 1, 2, and 4. And Kathy's going to be joining me. Welcome, Kathy. Rise if you're able or willing. Thank you. For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. Verse 4. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In the joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth. You may be seated.
Good morning, Beacon. Good morning. My name is Jermaine Kripe, and as Helen so eloquently put, I am your lifespan coordinator. I'm an African-American woman with a blue and red, white and blue, kind of everything, dress, and blue glasses. This morning's story for all ages is going to need a little crowd participation. So if I could get some assistance with making some sound effects, and as you hear the words come up in the story, feel free to pipe in with any other ones we may not have missed or we may not have gotten to. For example, the sound of wind through the branches. What does that sound like? What about rain gently falling? I feel like this, or yeah. What about a heartbeat? This is an unbelievable story about the connection one child has with a tree. I got no love for that joke. And I was trying. Do it again. This is an unbelievable story about the connection one child has with a tree. Let us begin. A soon-to-be mother walked with purpose through a grove of trees. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, only that something within her womb, called for her not to be indoors at this moment in time. As her first contraction broke, The sky split with a clap of lightning, illuminating the path she was on, and it led her to a great mother tree, one of those old spirits who've seen the changing of the world for 1,000 years. A gentle rain fell. And as the birth continued, the woman clutched the rough, solid trunk of the tree, bearing down and bringing the life of her child into being. As the child's first cry split the air, a seedling split the soil at the roots of a mother tree. The forest gave a great sigh as both souls, that of the newborn child and the newborn tree, became one with creation. Both beings shared the same heartbeat. Sighing with gratitude for the magic of the forest, the new mother pressed her head and her hand to the mother tree and the earth, vowing to raise her child to love and respect all life around them. Years passed and the child grew. They learned to walk and dance along the rocky shores of the stream that ran through the wood. They learned to speak by listening to the whistle of the winds, the chirp of crickets, the songs of birds. They drew strength and knowledge from the sunlight filtered through the canopy above, the tracks of foxes, and the passings of the seasons. They spent time every day at the foot of the great mother tree, reading books and exploring where their soul-bonded tree, now a gangly sapling, stood growing stronger into the earth. The child would sit and talk to the tree, sharing their day and creating stories together. The child always felt the tree in their heart and knew they were loved and were capable of loving, a gift they could share freely with others. Years passed and the child grew into a youth, struggling with the new challenges outside of the forest. Sometimes the youth would be so busy with all the to-dos and the things of importance in the world of men that days would pass before something inside would call them back to their woodland sibling. When they'd finally venture home, they would sit at the foot of the mother tree and share their concerns and cares, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with tears and frustration, with their family tree. The youth would be reminded to listen to the wisdom of the forest and the trusted human guides they were surrounded by. The sapling would be fed and strengthened by the mycorrhizal network, the forest-wide web of roots and fungi that communicated messages and shared resources with every life form connected. By remembering to stay connected to the source of both their lives, the youth grew into a caring, centered, wise adult, and the sapling into a strong, resilient staple of the forest. The adults centered their life's path around being one with the earth. What does my heart say? How do my choices affect my family tree? The adult became a spokesperson to others, sharing their connection to their family tree, and encouraged people to get outside and get to know nature as more than just a resource to use, but as a partner in life. And they lived a very big life with just a little footprint, because why take more than your share, right? The tree became a source of support for the mother tree, giving shelter to birds, pine cones as food for squirrels, and shade for when the adult came to sit under its beloved branches. Personally, I never had a connection with nature like this until I began taking time each week to get outdoors, to feel the sun on my face and the grass between my toes, to play in the waves and to listen to birds, to touch trees and to touch the earth. It's something we all need to do more of, because to save ourselves and this beautiful planet we call home, it's much harder to take advantage of things you get to know and love than those that you don't know and don't care for. So could you help me by not only reminding me to stay connected to our family of trees, but to get outdoors yourself and create your own connections? You might even find your own family tree to love. And what a wonderful, life-giving interplay and dance we'll share together. The natural world's survival depends on staying connected and helping others. That's what's independence, baby, interdependence. With animals, trees, birds, wolves, whales, all living things. And knowing that they feel connected to us too is such a beautiful feeling. Here ends our story for all ages.
Good morning, Beacon. Good morning. My name is Adam Gonerman, and I'm honored to serve as a Beacon chaplain. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm wearing blue jeans and a black shirt and glasses. I'm a bald white man, so that's your image. You can easily spot me or any chaplain here at Beacon by the maroon stole that we wear. As a chaplain, I'm a specially trained layperson dedicated to providing compassionate support and pastoral care during life's challenging moments. Whether you're coping with loss, anxiety, or physical and emotional struggles, we're here to listen and provide a supportive presence. We're also available to hear your good news and sharing your joy if you have that to pass along. Know that our support extends beyond today's service. You can reach out to us anytime for a conversation. If you'd like to speak with me or another chaplain, please don't hesitate to approach us. As I mentioned, we're available for one-on-one conversations over the phone or in person, and you can find out more information about our ministry on the Beacon website. I'll be available after today's service if you'd like to chat. Remember, the confidentiality is a sacred commitment that we uphold, ensuring a safe and non-judgmental space for you to express yourself. Additionally, we are privileged to nurture the spiritual well-being of our community through our weekly candle lighting ceremony. Today, we light candles of love and support for a few intentions. First, we have a candle of healing for Kimi Nakata, who is at Kessler recovering from a series of neurological events. We hold Kimmy, her wife Kathy, and their daughter Julie in our hearts, offering our love, strength, and supportive thoughts during this time. For caregivers who generously offer their time and energy that they may receive support, strength, and rest. For individuals and families experiencing economic hardship, that their needs be met with dignity, generosity, and compassion from the community around them. For justice and healing in places of violence and conflict around the world, that compassion and peace prevail over hatred and division. For those who grieve, that they may find comfort, understanding, and healing in their sorrow. For our community here at Beacon, that we continue to grow together in compassion, understanding, and meaningful service to others. And we invite you to join us in lighting a candle, whether you're here with us today in the sanctuary or wherever you may be, watching us from home or wherever you are. Light a candle symbolizing hope, solidarity, and a prayer for these and other intentions. Thank you.
Normally during this time of the morning, we have a testimony from a member of our congregation talking about the gifts that Beacon brings into their lives. This morning, I am that member of your congregation because I am. One of the conversations we've been having in stewardship and in the finance committee recently has been about what gifts, what things do you need from this community in exchange or in relationship with your stewardship to this community. I've always kind of hated that idea of exchange in church. You know, that whole idea of spiritual connectivity being, I don't know, has a price tag on it. It kind of bothers me. But at the same time, isn't that how we value a lot of things in life? Things that are important to us, we invest our time, treasure, and talent into. And although I do receive a paycheck for a lot of the work I do, for a lot of the work I do outside of the community, I do not receive a paycheck for. And it is absolutely reflective of the values that I've learned in this congregation. The gifts of giving, of listening, of carrying the burdens of other people, of wanting to share in the lives of someone beyond myself. That idea that although I am my oldest friend or longest standing relationship, that there's more than just me here on this planet. And that my role as a member of this community goes beyond that of the lifespan coordinator. But as Jermaine Kripe, member of Beacon, how I speak, how I carry myself online, how I walk through this world is reflective on this congregation. And because of the gifts that I've been given by this community, the love and support, the friendships, the fun, the ability to find meaning in work, that comes from this place. A lot of people don't have that gift. They work jobs to pay the bills. It's what I went to school for. And you're kind of in the grind. I'm blessed to have the ability to do what I love with people I love, or getting to know so I can love them better. So in that spirit of being one and of gratitude for what I get from Beacon, not just the check, the joy, the love, our offering will be gladly received.
This morning, I'll be singing Annie's Song by John Denver. I welcome you to sing along with me near the end, if you don't mind, if you know it and you love it. Thank you to Judy for playing with me. Thank you to Kathy for playing with me. And also, a special thank you to Tom Seltzer for building these new boxes for us. You fill up my senses like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses, come fill me again. Come, let me love you, let me give my life to you. Let me drown in your laughter, let me die in your arms. Let me lay down beside you. Let me always be with you. Come, let me love you. Come, love me again. You fill up my senses like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses, come fill me again. Thank you.
This reading is a poem by Mary Oliver. When I'm among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness, I would almost say they save me, and daily. I'm so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. There was a small wood behind our elementary school, and after lunch we often played there, turning the low-growth trees into rooms that housed our imagination. And that was before commerce turned those trees into actual houses. And I'm wondering if any of you have ever done something like that as children? Right. And nobody had to teach us to do this. As an adult, thanks to my husband, Chris, I've recovered some of that relationship and that intimacy. Walking through the woods together, say on an early July morning, we will take a familiar path, perhaps in Jockey Hollow, and overhead, the green leaves rustle in a light breeze, and underfoot, the soft crunch of last year's leaves occasionally accompanies our steps. Now and again, sunlight shimmers across the path, and a thrush singing may break the quiet. The mingled scents of something mushroomy, something piney, and some things hard to define lightly fill the air. The forest puts me at peace. It puts me in my place. I feel small in a good way, a way that steeps me in awe. And it makes me wonder if we come by an affinity for the forest naturally. You know, many of our distant ancestors worshipped in groves. They worshipped trees. And to this day, you can still see those trees in the columns that support many places of worship. Greek, Roman, Hindu, temples everywhere. You can see them in the groined Gothic vaults whose arches and intersections high overhead reprise branches. And even here, in this temple to the Enlightenment, in a space stripped of all conscious religious iconography, you can see them. Some of you may have been here before when I've asked you to do this. Look at the columns. Really look at them. In their proximity and their number, you can still glimpse the grove. And their fluted bodies suggest the bark of trees, while their bleached capitals still hint at flowers and leaves. These are vestiges of those ancient trees. Trees time has reduced to a style, a fashion, its source and meaning long forgotten. Maybe you know that after the retreat of the glaciers, more than 50% of Earth's land mass was forests. Forests from pole to pole, forests that turned our planet green. And to give you an idea, Julius Caesar wrote of meeting a man who, because of the density of the trees, walked from Poland to Spain without ever seeing the sun. So what happened to them? Well, for one thing, in the 6th century, monasticism happened. Saint Benedict happened. You see, when he was young, a woman jilted him, and he was so upset that he retreated into a life of poverty and celibacy. And then, saying idleness is the enemy of the soul, he founded the Benedictine order, an order which coincidentally demanded celibacy and poverty, and one thing more: obedience. In his book, The Alphabet versus the Goddess, Leonard Shlain tells us that this was the beginning of what became the distinguishing social moment of the next 1,000 years. And we might add, the dawn of the work ethic. Until then, the average European serf worked about 4 hours a day, excluding much of winter and the many, many, many religious and even secular holidays. Benedict inflated the monastic workday to 6 hours, a change that today many of us would welcome. Shlain notes that nothing like it had ever occurred before. Just imagine what a zealous, unpaid workforce can do in 1,000 years. And of the trees and their fate, that canopy that covered more than 50% of the earth's land mass, he says, small farmers could never hope to marshal the resources necessary to clear this dense foliage. At the start of the monastic movement, most of Europe was unsuitable for agriculture. By the end of it, the horizon was visible in many places. And Shlain concludes, the monastic movement was responsible for deforestation on an unprecedented scale. Indeed, all around us we can see how, taken to a secular and international extreme, the work ethic continues to affect the world. In her 2016 book, Lab Girl, biologist Hope Yaren tells us that every year since 1990, we have created more than 8 billion new stumps. And she wrote that at least 9 busy years ago, so today, who knows? It kind of makes you wonder, can one Italian woman jilting one Italian man really change the world? I mean, losing a love or a lover happens to lots of people, maybe even some of us. It doesn't change the world. We get over it. So Benedict must have kicked something off with monasticism, but by itself, how could that account for the legions of acolytes across centuries whom it attracted? Although he must have been an extraordinary and charismatic individual, he must also have embodied some fundamental assumption, a story that made sense to people in his time and still does. Absent that, really, who would have followed him? They might have just dismissed him as eccentric or even crazy. And when a story like that shapes our thinking, we tend to apply it everywhere. Even today, many of us have a similar mindset, a deeply hierarchical worldview. It's one that teaches us to look for and up to authority. But why? Where does it come from? I think that vow of obedience gives us a clue. As small children, who are our primary authorities? A parent figure. Long before we become conscious, most of us project omniscience and omnipotence on them. After all, they're certainly bigger, and as long as our survival depends on them, we expect them to know everything. While time usually disabuses us of this useful illusion, it leaves us in uncertainty. So should it surprise us if we default to an early mindset and look for higher authority to replace a parent, say a god, a hero, even a president? And while the hierarchical model has its uses, I think the forest can teach us a better way to understand the world and our place in it. And we're going to explore that after a musical break.
Okay. We're going to be singing hymn 175. We celebrate the web of life. And I will ask you all to rise if you are able, in body or spirit, or both. We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing. A fragment of the perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much in tiny barnacle as in the great blue whale. Of ancient dreams we are the sum, of bones linked stone to star, and bind all future worlds to come with worlds that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air which dream all creatures' birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth. You may be seated.
Trees of Life, Part 2. Okay, a long time ago, some people worshipped in forests. They worshipped trees. Nice to know. But why should it matter to us? Trees do a lot for us, true, even living trees. They clean the air, they produce oxygen, they provide habitat, and today we can appreciate that they provide shade, and they are certainly ornamental. Beyond that, in losing forests, did we lose anything vital? I watched a TED Talk by Stefano Mancuso. His is the emerging field of plant neurobiology. And in it, he cites the last paragraph of an 1880 book by Charles Darwin and his son Francis, The Power of Movement in Plants. Speaking of the root tip, they tell us, it is hardly an exaggeration to say that the tip acts like the brain of one of the lower animals. How about that? Each tip acts like the brain of one of the lower animals. Almost a century and a half ago, they saw intelligence in how the tip of every root in every plant behaves. And sure enough, Mancuso shows us film of a tip behaving exactly the way the Darwins describe. It probes ahead just like a worm or a snake. Mancuso explains that a region in the tip just about 3 millimeters long accounts for it. That's this tiny space between my fingers. And from where you're sitting, it may not even look like a space. So we might ask ourselves, how smart could it be? Well, by itself, not very. Not by our standards. It's certainly not going to earn a PhD. But then Mancuso shows us a pale bundle of roots that belong to a single rye plant, and he says that this one small plant has about 11.5 million active root tips. That's a lot of brain potential. And staggering as we may find that number, imagine what is going on under our feet. Imagine what is going on among plants sprouting through cracks in sidewalks and roots probing underneath roadbeds and buildings. What is going on among that infinity of root tips, because we now know that they communicate not only within themselves but among other plants. They partner with fungi and trade their sugars for essential nutrients in the soil. Now we know that trees can arm themselves chemically against parasites and diseases and even warn other trees of impending danger. Now we know that trees actually nurture their young and have family ties. And some even team up with other tree species to their mutual benefit. Without intelligence, How do we account for it? Yet locked in hierarchical thinking, we can find it hard to imagine intelligence without a brain closed in a skull atop a body. Intelligence without an executive in charge. Well, what if you don't need a single brain in a single skull to be smart? What is this intricate underground network of roots among species if not a brain? Not the brain of an isolated individual, but the brain of a living planet, the brain of an intelligent Earth in an intelligent cosmos. And what have we lost in those canopies, like the one that spanned from Poland to Spain? We've lost what some worshiping in groves eons ago intuited. We've lost what still draws us as children and adults back to the forest. We've lost, continue to lose, and are misusing the infinite intelligence of our planet. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this culture has lost its mind. What if all along these trees have been showing us another way, a more fundamental way to understand intelligence and to understand ourselves? Even now, when our workaday frenzy has pushed them to the fringe, trees persist in practicing the wisdom of interdependence, strength and resilience through diversity, cooperation, connection. That's what makes and keeps the earth so green and alive. And what are we, if not children of the forest, children of those trees? Because we are created in their image. Like the grove hidden in the sanctuary's columns, since ancient times they have hidden in our language. Don't we call our torso a trunk and our arms and legs limbs? And as you sit here, inside you, blood and lymph are circulating through vascular trees and electricity through a tree of nerves. In you, an inner arbor, trees within a tree. What's more, I doubt that the brain is an executive whom these networks simply obey. We've all had gut feelings. Well, neurologically speaking, we know that's exactly what they are. The brain, the stomach is another brain. It can initiate a response before the head knows anything about it. And this really blows me away. At NYU, neuroscientist Nikolai Kukushkin reports that learning and memory are generally associated with brains and brain cells alone. But our study shows that other cells in the body can learn and form memories too. He adds that the ability to learn might be a fundamental property of all cells. Intelligence at the cellular level. Maybe it takes something smart to make something smart. To my mind, the other of our denomination's recently adopted values, love, plurality, transformation, justice, equity, these emerge from interdependence. They are corollaries to the lessons of the forest, because unless something connects all to all, they just turn into preferences rather than imperatives. We can choose them if we like them. But if something connects all to all, then they choose us. If something connects all to all, then we belong to an infinitely dimensional and layered network of networks. Not a metaphor, but a fact. A reality that the great canopies that covered continents made manifest. A reality worthy of worship. And we are, all of us, trees of life in a cosmic forest. Before you go, I would like you to invite you to a spoken and then a silent meditation. If you want to participate, Find a comfortable position, perhaps with your feet flat on the floor, with your back supported and at ease. And you can rest your hands comfortably in your laps. Relax your breathing. Take a deep breath and slowly release. Take another and another, and so on. You may want to close your eyes. Think of a forest, maybe from your childhood or near your home. Maybe in July, say an early July morning. You take a familiar path, one that many feet like yours have trod. Smell the air, the early morning air with its mingled, elusive life scents. Overhead, the fresh green leaves rustle in a light breeze. Sometimes underfoot, the soft crunch of last year's brown leaves marks each step. Now and again, sunlight shimmers across the path, and to your left, you hear a thrush. Stay a while. You too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. Rest in the quiet of this place. When you are ready, gently open your eyes and bring your attention back to this sanctuary. Please rise and join hands for the benediction. Just as our hands connect us to each other, something connects all to all, in witness, in recognition,